Coming to you from the beautiful Alathus building in gorgeous downtown Russellville, we welcome you into the Spotlight presented by Alathus Realty Live. Thanks so much for joining us here today. My name is Drew Brent. I'm your host. If you are in the market for buying or selling your home, give us a call, 479-968-5668, or cruise on over to russellvilleliving.com. Our guest at this time is a musical legend in this area. His new single drops today at 5. You can catch him and his group at the Fassler Hall tonight in Little Rock. His name is Sam Allbright. Sam, I am so glad we have you here today.
I'm glad to be here, and you could tell that you've done that several times.
It's the prompter.
This has started well.
Oh yeah, we really have done.
Thanks to you.
Oh well, no, I don't know that we can give me the credit on that. You're the star here. That's why people are watching.
I'm grateful to be here,
dude. Your music is so good. Can I just fanboy for just a few minutes?
Thank you.
I want to know where it came from.
Yeah, excellent question. And believe it or not, I've never been asked that.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm thinking.
All right. Well, we've really started well.
Yeah, this has started really well.
Yeah.
Where does it come from? A lot of it comes from my roots in old school rock and roll, for sure. My dad was a Deadhead, hardcore.
Okay.
So I love the Grateful Dead, but then there's this Bob Dylan side.
Right.
He was probably my favorite artist growing up. Love Bob Dylan. And I think that I end up being this morphed blend of a lot of different things, whether it's traditional folk or jam band rock meets jazz fusion / I don't know.
Well, but isn't that the beauty of music? I mean, especially in our local scene, there's not really a spot to fall into unless you're just straight up cover country. There's a lot of different blends to that. How do you kind of reconcile that in your creative process?
I try to stay true to me, for sure, because the reality is I will never fit in to the scene that we're currently sitting in.
Sure.
And so I just don't try. I got it for the most part. But yeah, I think that the nice thing is people are attracted to somebody being who they are. And so even though I might not win the masses here, I'll win a few, maybe find. Well, you had Rob McCormick on the show, and he always talks about finding your tribe.
Yeah.
And I'm very big on that. I want, if someone enjoys me, for them to have gotten something that they will get every time because it is me.
Right, absolutely. And you mentioned what Rob said on the show. I mean, and he has said that to me in private conversations before, finding your tribe. But I think there's more to it than just finding that group of people. It's finding why you do what you do.
Yes.
Where did that go for you?
Oh, man. So why I do what I do, I was watching a Tom Petty documentary the other day. It's called Running Down a Dream. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah. A great song, too.
Oh, my goodness, yes. It's like a 4-hour documentary. So I fall asleep to it on the couch, probably seen it 5 times.
Right.
So it's good sleep.
And never from beginning to end.
Right.
Exactly.
I'll catch, same pockets and hopefully get something new. But he mentions, and I'll butcher the quote, but he talks about almost all artists are playing for someone that can't hear them. And I think that a lot of my drive, and I've never been satisfied. If you asked me whenever I was 11 years old, Sam, what do you want to do? I want to play rock and roll. I want to make music. I want to be in a band. And so, and this maybe dips off into a rabbit hole, but my father was my greatest inspiration, and he passed when I was 15. And so I think that a lot of my music, a lot of what I do is still in a way playing for him to hear me.
Right.
Which I know that just got deep really early. We may need to tell a joke or a commercial break, but,
Yes.
but that is my drive, if I'm just point blank.
Well, it's fascinating, too. I'm always interested in how musicians or how artists in general, create what they create and why they create it and who they create it for.
Yes.
And a lot of times I have seen that voice comes from a place that you never quite got to. It's strange. Is that the same for you?
I would say so. Absolutely. The creative process, it looks different, I think, for everybody. But for me, I love playing my guitar, and I love going places that I've never been before, like you're saying.
Right.
As well as lyrically, I've always had this tick of not really wanting to ever write topically about the same thing twice, which can become a burden. because think
So no
about
concept albums.
right, exactly. And maybe so musically that there will be a thread there that kind of binds it all together. But yeah, I always love exploring spots musically that I've never been. I think that keeps it alive too, keeps it interesting.
So how do you start? How did you get started?
Whew, I wanted to be a drummer, okay, desperately. Whenever there were some milestones in my life for sure that I can look back on. One of them was I was barely able to talk. Apparently, I'm in my car seat. You know, Buffalo Springfield.
Oh yeah.
Love Buffalo Springfield. My father had put on their CD. It had For What It's Worth, Kind Woman, all of these just mind-blowing songs. But apparently, Expecting to Fly. Do you know that track?
I do actually.
Okay, so this
I'm
is
a big fan of Buffalo Springfield.
awesome. Definitely, if you
Right.
know that.
Yeah.
And it starts with this orchestral, deep strings in the beginning. It's a very introspective song. And from the back seat, when the track ended, apparently I kept saying, again, again, again. And I was just frustrated until that track would be looped back around. And so from an early age, my parents took note of what I was interested in. And musically, it always seemed to be a little maybe more obscure or less expected. And then whenever I was 3, there was a VHS tape of Help by the Beatles.
By the Beatles.
Yes. I was glued to it, fell in love with it, saw Ringo live when I was 6 years old in
Wow.
Little Rock, which was
Cool.
super a monumental moment for me. But I learned every word to the Help album. Walking into kindergarten, which this does have a point somehow, walking into kindergarten, I sang all of Ticket to Ride to my school teacher on the playground. And that school teacher ended up becoming the music teacher for me again later on in the 5th grade. And whenever it came time, there was this big auditions. I went to a small private school in Little Rock called Arkansas Baptist. Rest in peace. It's Baptist Prep now.
Yes.
But AB for life. And this teacher, she loved me a lot and remembered me as the Ticket to Ride boy. How does this guy
Right.
know all the words? And there was a Christmas program that was going to take place for all the parents and grandparents to come into. And I thought, my goodness, I've never sang. I've never done any of that. And I auditioned, and sure enough, she let me have a singing part that ended up actually getting me into my first band because a friend of mine, his father came up and said, "You rock, dude." And I was like, I don't know. I'm
Right.
still shaking. I can't believe I just sang. And they had a worship band, and we started in a band together in the 5th grade, and that guy still plays drums for me today, all these years later. And but yeah, rewind. I wanted to be a drummer. My dad got me a set of bongos. He wanted me to hit on them. I didn't. I was actually very disinterested after like 5 minutes because I wanted a drum kit. I want to rock. Yeah.
Right.
And this didn't really feel.
There's something about a bongo and a djembe that doesn't quite hit like a snare does.
No, it doesn't. Or a cymbal or
Right,
crash.
or crash.
And apparently, had I played them, he was going to buy me a kit a month later. It was just, he just wanted to see how interested I was. And sure enough, for my 8th birthday, bought me a guitar because that's what he wanted.
Right.
And sure enough, ends up in the corner, collects dust. And before you know it, I'm 11. I'm singing in a band now because of my little Christmas program experience. And I picked that guitar up and played it till the neck snapped and blood ended up on the inside. And that was my love for the last 15 years.
What's the first song you wrote?
Oh my goodness. I had a neighbor named Max Finks, and I said, I want to write songs. We were just neighborhood buddies, and I wrote a song that's so embarrassing called Exchange, and I remember it to this day. I was probably 7. It's a ridiculous song.
And it's about?
It's my idea at 7 years old of what a successful song would be. It says, exchange. I don't know what to do, but all I need is you. Right?
Oh, wow.
And so...
in modern pop world, you may make $1 million.
I'm telling you, there may be something there to dig up. But
Right.
Yeah, no. It is funny, though, because you do remember those moments. I remember it like I wrote it yesterday, but I was 7 and it's horrible.
Right.
It's a terrible song.
I think everybody remembers that. I mean, if you're musically inclined or you love music or you're creative in any sense, you remember that first time being very poignant, being borderline shameful, but then also being something you would never take back
Sure.
because it puts you on this path. Do you kind of draw from that same youthful exuberance, or do you write from a place of more, seasoned, a more seasoned place?
I can tell definitely now that I have tried so many things that I did not enjoy.
Right.
That I have parameters in place now that I probably wouldn't have had even 2 years ago. Our first album, I wrote it all, guitar wise, lyrically, in 2 weeks, 10 tracks, and we recorded it in 3 days at Blue Chair Studio. So you're talking about a 17-day project, became our first album. I look back on it and I think I'm so grateful for what it's done, giving us material,
Right.
Something that, hey, check this out. But even with our upcoming album, my goodness, it's just a world of difference lyrically, instrumentally. You can tell that it's gone to another place.
Let's talk about that next album right after I tell you that if you are interested in buying or selling your home, you can give us a call at 479-968-5668 or cruise on over to russellvilleliving.com. One of our fine agents here at Olathe will be glad to help you through your home buying or selling process. Again, give us a call, 479-968-5668. The next album is American Cowboy. It drops September the 6th, and just later on today, as this airs, the new single from that album drops.
That's correct.
Let's talk about American Cowboy. You said that this is somewhat different. Let's hear about that.
Absolutely. Let's do it. This one's more electrified. So essentially, and I guess I keep going back to this, but it just so happens this album is a bit of a tribute for my father. Mm-hmm. And so I remember prior to his passing, it was just this ridiculous experience. It was cancer, and so it was a very elongated deal. And during that time, I somehow couldn't remember times prior to it. All I could remember was him being sick,
right?
Which is very unfortunate because so much depth to us, but couldn't remember past the skinniness and the frailty. And so I had a pastor come up to me actually at his funeral, and he laid his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Sam, I just want to pray for you that you will be able to remember the good times with your dad before all of this." And he had no clue that I already was stuck in that mold. He's been gone now 11 years, and it wasn't until a year and a half ago that I was able to remember prior to that state. And the memory that I had was of me as a little cowboy coming through the living room with my holster from the dollar store, of course.
Right, dollar store.
Because we've all had a pop gun. And so right. Had my cap on, the vest. And we loved a movie called Shane. Do you remember the movie Shane?
I am familiar with the movie Shane. I may have even seen it, but I couldn't recall.
The lead actor, he's from Hot Springs originally. Okay. Supposedly a really short guy that they ended up digging trenches for his casting mate and all of that, but good-looking dude, and he played the role incredibly, and it's this old Western. Well, I was so fascinated with that movie, and there's a bad guy named Wilson. Black hat, of course.
Right.
I'm coming in, the white hat on. I had one gun, he had two, which if you need two guns,
then you're not a good shooter.
And you're the bad guy.
Right.
For sure.
Exactly.
And so this song, I had this memory of me coming around the corner, my dad coming through, me blasting him. He falls over on the ground, and we just laughed and laughed and laughed. And that just immediately, my mind was expanded, and I could remember so many different incredible memories with my father. And I wrote the song American Cowboy. It was one of those times, it seemed like it was already written for me. Mm-hmm. I think it took 3 minutes max, guitar and all. I sat down, picked it up. There was just so much inspiration that I didn't question any of it. And normally I'll labor over a song and re-labor over it. So yeah, that ended up becoming the title track, American Cowboy. Is it my favorite on the album? Actually, no. But is the most meaningful, definitely.
Let's talk about the new single that's coming up, Deep Depths. It's actually being released. As this airs, it's being released tonight at 5 o'clock. So just about an hour and a half from now as you're watching this on the premiere. Talk about Deep Depths.
Yeah, Deep Depths. Ended up after 18 years in Little Rock, moving to Russellville for Arkansas Tech. Wonder Boy,
Whoop.
and
Representing today.
definitely, yeah,
Yeah.
you knew. And I ended up living in a dorm called Turner Hall.
I'm familiar with Turner.
Yeah, I was a Turner Hall guardian back then, and my goodness, I loved it. Actually, the community was out of this world. Um, I guess I'll preface talking about Deep Depths with the fact that I'm happily married to my wife, Letty. We've been married for 4 years coming August, but the ironic thing about this song is it's 3 floors. Turner Hall is. I came into college having my high school sweetheart that I dated for 3 years. Our relationship ended while I was living on the 3rd floor of Turner. I ended up actually talking with a girl, and we were somewhat dating that lived on the 1st floor, and then ended up in a serious relationship with a girl that lived on the 2nd floor the following years, because I lived in Turner for multiple years. And so this wasn't like, man, Sam was getting around one.
Just like moving from floor to floor.
Yes,
right?
Yes. It just so happened one ended the moment that I got there. Another was the following year, and another was the following year.
So is college, basically.
Yes, precisely.
As it goes.
And then I met my wife while still living there, and I was living on the 3rd floor again. And so the song, lyrically, it starts 3 floors high, then it goes 2 floors high, 1 floor high. And it actually talks about, I had a lot of remorse. I think that I was kind of a selfish guy, for sure. Like college is for a lot of people, you're foolish and you're trying to figure out how to be a good human being, and losing a lot of your, it's still your adolescence or whatever. And so the chorus says, wingless through damage done, a bird will fall towards depths unknown. And so I felt like I just clipped a lot of girls' wings, because I always grew up with the Beatles saying birds being girls.
Yeah.
And so I kind of stole that, and I used that analogy as me being the person actually very unintentionally clipping their wings.
I think creative people too, this whole setup for me where we sit right now is much more my creative outlet now than almost anything. But I think even creative people at points, whether they're honest with themselves or not, are forced to be at least semi-introspective. The more that you write and the more that you create, do you find yourself being a little more reflective, and then either having remorse or taking some of that and saying, I can tweak that and be better?
Certainly. I think that a lot of times whenever I do get to write a song from a vulnerable place that is introspective, it usually actually ends up being closure.
Yeah, therapeutic almost.
Absolutely. Even with the song that I'm talking about that's releasing today, Deep Depths, I remember finishing that song and genuinely feeling done with any emotion that could have a negative connotation in my heart from those times. And just being like, okay, that happened. I'm better for it. I ended up with the best bird of all, my wife.
Exactly.
Right? And my goodness, yes, everything that you just said is 100% accurate. And therapy, my goodness, I probably should have gone and sought professional help a long time ago. But my guitar's been sufficient, I suppose. So yes, therapeutic and introspective for sure.
We are talking to Sam Allbright here on Olathe Live. If you are interested in buying or selling your home, give us a call today, 479-968-5668. Cruise on over to RussellvilleLiving.com. Remember, if you miss any of these interviews, you can go back and check them out on the Facebook archives, YouTube, or you can go and listen to them on Google Play, iTunes, or Spotify today. Speaking of Spotify, can we find you on Spotify?
My goodness, yes. We are on all major streaming outlets, Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere.
Yeah. Outstanding.
Anywhere you look, Sam Allbright.
We're going to go back to music here in just a little bit, but there's another side of you that is actually fairly common among some musicians in this area, is that you're also very active in ministry.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
We were just talking about the introspective side of this. When did the ministry thing happen?
Wow, yes. So my mother was a church pianist, and I grew up in a home with some really strong believers. Um, and I remember knowing that I didn't just need some higher power, but that specifically I really needed Jesus Christ
Right.
for sure. Um, and it was the story of the Good Shepherd, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm broken, and my goodness, there's someone seeking me out.
Right.
And so that set me on my path from a very young age to uh, living living kind of an unfortunate life after my father's passing, kind of a lost season of time where I'm partying, overindulging in a lot of things that weren't healthy for me, and actually ministry. Uh, it really came to a head with Chi Alpha Campus Ministries at Arkansas Tech.
Yeah.
Where do you know Pierce Williams?
I know who Pierce Williams is.
Yeah, he's a wonderful guy. He'd be a good one to have on here.
I'm marking that down now.
Yeah, I'm telling you, put that down.
Yeah.
Pierce Williams. That guy, he came in and loved me as a brother so well. And he talked about the major things like loving God, loving people, meeting people where they're at. You know, really brought a judgment-free way of doing ministry, which is just like Christ.
Right.
And watching the way that he loved people and made disciples of Jesus, it was so inspiring that I really knew during my college years that there was no way that I wasn't going to do that. And so, yeah, ended up getting, this was kind of strange, never wanted to work with young people. So, yeah, Tarshawn on here a while back. Has as big a heart as possible.
Right, and
people.
that's all he wants to do.
That's all he wants to do. Yeah, I could care less. I didn't really like me as a young person, and so why would I like you as a young person?
Right.
But yes, God had other plans, and I ended up essentially there was a job opportunity that opened up back in my hometown that was going to be wonderful. It seemed like everything was coming into place. We didn't want to leave Russellville, but it was a great opportunity to go and do ministry. And they actually were looking at potentially not only having me be the youth pastor, but be the worship pastor. It's a really thriving church with great people in it. I prayed, everything seemed right, and then the Lord said no. And so I told my wife, she felt the same thing. We were offered 2 more youth pastor positions the following month, and I had not applied for any positions ever, not even the one that I was getting in Little Rock. It was just people were coming. And the more that I was praying about young people, which the last thing I wanted to do was youth,
Right.
The more that I was praying, the more I was like, my goodness, I have to work with young people. And I think that now I've realized that there's a lot of people, they call it the fatherless generation, right?
Yeah.
And so even though I'm young and I'm not a biological father yet, I think if I can be a father figure, something stable for young people,
Sure.
then my goodness, that I needed that desperately, and I think it would have spared me a lot of grief. So I kind of go about ministry. I think I have a lot of mercy in my heart for people because of how I've lived.
Exactly.
A lot of grace, but definitely, I hope that people will gain some wisdom from my mistakes.
I want to bring up a young man's name who I don't think you had in youth. I think David Howell was still
Okay.
in.
Very possible.
His name is Nathan Self.
Oh, I had him.
So you had
Still one of my best friends.
He was one of my kids first back in the early days.
Yes, the journey days.
Right, and he was one of mine, and then he preached his first message at CT Pasadena in Texas on Sunday. When you see your kids, the kids that you mentor, move into something like that, really succeeding, I mean, does it not just somewhat tear your heart out, but also swell you with a little pride? Because I teared up over that.
My goodness, yes. Nathan Self rode on the back of my motorcycle to Austin, Texas last month. So we still stay very, very in contact. Right. And I actually had him a senior year.
Okay, gotcha.
And so did get a year with Nate and had been his friend for a long time. But yes, oh my goodness, yes. I end up, I don't cry because,
Right, we just don't do that.
Yeah. No, I cry a lot.
Right.
Yeah. Frequently. Tim McGraw, he nailed it. I don't know why they say grown men don't cry.
They
'Cause
do.
we do.
100%.
We do a lot, especially whenever it comes to someone, you know, their life being changed, maybe because of something that we got to be a part of. And I have Nathan Self is a prime example. I was on the phone with him yesterday, and just seeing him ministering to others and loving people with
Yeah.
the tenacity that he does. My goodness, he's been a constant storm of the Holy Spirit for as long as I've known him. And there's a kid that we have right now. He just came onto our youth staff team, but we've had him in ministry for 2 years. Had a really, really difficult upbringing. And he gave his life to the Lord over a year ago. And his heart, I asked him the other day, I said, why do youth staff, why come onto our team and start helping young people? He said, kind of what I already said, but to echo it, he said, I want kids to have what I didn't have.
Yeah.
And my goodness, I think when that's your heart, that's a winning combination.
Right, because you won't stop.
No,
You can't.
no, absolutely. You've got skin in the game.
Right, exactly. And, and somebody like Tarshawn, as you mentioned earlier, he was talking about, he had a great upbringing, that kind of thing. And his heart was, I want to make sure that the kids who don't have that have that.
Yeah.
So in the same way,
Other side of the coin.
yeah, and that kind of segues into something that I wanted to talk about with you a little bit, is just talking about this community at large. You moved here when you were, 18, coming into tech. The music scene in Little Rock has always been talked about as being really, really good. There's always something to do. But Russellville's a little different.
Oh, yeah.
It's a bit of a culture shock coming from the capital city to here. But I would submit to you that I think this music scene and the talent at large here is as good as anywhere else in the state. We just don't tend to book them here.
Definitely.
Is that your assertion as well?
That absolutely. I would put talent that's come from Russellville toe to toe with anywhere else in Arkansas easily.
Yeah.
And I would be a betting man that the talent is as great, if not greater.
Yeah.
For sure.
We talked about Rob McCormick just as a fixture in this community.
I love him.
You're on staff at City Church, as is he, doing the worship leader thing.
Yes.
Having so much in common, how much of an influence is he for you?
My goodness. Rob, he really took my mind and he shaped the business side of it.
Yeah.
Big time. He's been instrumental in the way that I've gone about things and going from where I've been to where I am and hopefully where I'm going. But Rob also just bringing that, he's such a gentle guy. He
really is.
He's definitely, he's a teddy bear. You'd look at him and think he's coming one way, but he's actually coming a different direction.
Right.
Which is super wonderful. And
always in a blazer.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And he I think levels me a lot. He's been an anchor for sure. If in an analogy I'm a balloon, I'd just go straight up to outer space and end up nowhere.
Right.
If Rob didn't put a little weight on the end of the line and say, hey man, here's some nuts and bolts of how to go about stuff. I love him.
We're talking to Sam Allbright. You can catch him tonight at Fassler Hall in Little Rock. You can also check out the new single, Deep Depths. That is coming out at 5 o'clock. Sam, where can they catch that single?
So we are going to be premiering it on YouTube at 5 o'clock. So if you type in Sam Allbright Deep Depths on YouTube, you'll be able to watch it the moment that it drops. There's even a countdown that takes place. It's a really cool feature they have on there. It will also be released on Spotify as a single as well. So if they don't catch the video, which I recommend catching it, I'm in makeup, I'm drowning. There are a lot of cool underwater shots, and my buddy Jacob Stanford shot it, and my goodness, he's incredible.
Okay, where are your upcoming tour dates? You're going to Kings again in Conway pretty soon.
Yes,
right?
So we'll be at Kings in Conway on the 23rd. My goodness, we're going.
You're going to the Washitas in Mena on July the 24th.
Yes, love the Washitas.
And then you're going to JJ's in Fort Smith on August the 6th.
Correct.
That's outstanding.
You know me
stuff.
better than I do.
Well, I've got this piece of paper that tells me what's
I need
happening.
one of those.
Yeah, I got to get you a piece of
One back
paper on
there.
that. Sam, tell the folks what they need to know about you as we wrap up.
Yeah, I love Russellville. As much as we talk about going other places, there's nowhere I'd rather have a home base.
100%.
My goodness, I can go across the country, but I want to come back here. And I'm just really grateful to my friends and family. for always having my back, because music is so fickle. The way you go about it, you have to have a lot of people in your corner. Love my wife Letty. Love my mother. And yeah, that's what you're supposed to do, right? Love you, Mom.
Right, exactly. Hi, Mom.
Yeah.
That's what you
That's
did
the
exactly what you're supposed to do.
Okay,
Instead.
good. So now
Yeah.
she knows I love her.
Right.
But yeah,
She was questioning it this entire interview until that
I know,
moment.
because
Yeah.
I talked so much about my dad. What about her? She
Right.
birthed me.
And you should have started from that point. The next time you're on, we'll try it again.
I need a redemption interview.
Yeah, and we'll have you back on in September to make sure we talk about
Awesome.
the brand new album coming out, American Cowboy, on
Awesome.
September the 6th.
That's it.
That's
I think
the way you
nailed
segue
it.
right there, brother.
You nailed it.
Sam Allbright. Man, thanks so much for being
Thank
on
you,
here.
Drew. Seriously.
All right, and you can see Sam tonight at Fassler Hall. You can also see him July 23rd at King's. The new single drops at 5 o'clock today. Do not miss it over on YouTube. And then also catch the new album, American Cowboy, out September the 6th. We've got a great lineup of shows coming up for you next week. Can't wait for you to catch them all. Until next time, if you need your house bought or sold, give us a call, 479-968-5668, or cruise on over to RussellvilleLiving.com. My name is Drew Brand. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you right back here on Monday.